So God calls out the weak. God lifts up the weak. God anoints the weak, right? And then he goes on to slay Goliath, the giant, right?
Yeah.
And not to make too much of that, but, from a secular perspective, God would anoint the strong Goliath giant man. Like, that's the definition of man. No, it turns out he picks the shepherd boy who kills the giant, who is the like secular kind of stereotype of a man.
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes on to become a man after God's own heart.
Yeah.
Leads a people to greatness, delivers his people, but again, all along the way, like full of failure, full of doubt, full of fear, full of sin.
Yep.
And yet God continues to redeem him, restore him, draw him back to himself. So it's an amazing story, and obviously points towards, a future king.
Yes. And I think one thing that I love about David is, and this is something we don't see in Christ, David repented.
Mm-hmm.
Christ never had to. But you see that in David. He had a repentant heart, a humble heart before God. And I think that's part, not completely, but that's part of why God said he's a man after my own heart. Because he sinned, messed up, but he repented.
Yeah.
And he acknowledged it.
Yep.
So I think I love David so much. And then I put here King Josiah. I'm not going to go too much into him, but I love that whole account of King Josiah. He's the son of a very wicked king.
Mm-hmm.
And he comes in, he hears the law. He's like 18, I think, when he becomes king. So very young. He hears the law read to him, and it breaks his heart. And it says he gets up and he rips his clothes. Like, he's just torn apart inside of how far his country, his nation had gone from God.
Yeah.
Repents. God's about ready to destroy the nation altogether. But because Josiah repents, like truly, genuinely does, God goes, all right, I'm going to wait because this man has turned to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then Josiah then goes and he just cleans house. He sets everything in order, gets rid of all the paganism, turns the people back to God. It's just this incredible revival that takes place.
Mm-hmm.
It's encouraging because God's in the business of that when we humble ourselves, and we could use a bit of a revival and humbling.
Yeah, for sure.
Before God has to step in and actual punish,
Mm-hmm.
So, Josiah's great.
That's a good story.